And it will be harder and harder for us as a people to get better at that problem if there would be fewer and fewer college-educated Americans who know families with children without health insurance. So service learning increasingly will become important to put college students in situations unlike those they grew up in, dealing with problems unlike those they face in their family, and connecting them, letting what I believe is in human nature do its magic, letting them connect to people going through problems and challenges unlike their own in a personal, visceral way. And then taking that magic glue and bringing them back to the classroom and engaging them at the level of justice. The last thing I would say about that is, and I would love to turn this into a discussion, Impact Alabama occurs to me 6 years ago. Basically what you all have, a statewide collaboration of universities. These universities are pretty naturally turfy, a little bit competitive with each other. At least they're that way in Alabama. I don't know about Louisiana. But I assume that can be said of any state. The ability we give them, the more training that's required, the harder the work, and the less we pay them, the more talented the pool of applicants we get. It's hard to screw that up as a CEO. That's literally the culture of young engagement we have with us right now. So I think one of my short answers of, I wouldn't call it wisdom, just advice, is in terms of any of the efforts you all are engaged in, which all are exciting and meaningful and making a concrete, tangible difference, the capacity for young college graduates to turn around right when they graduate and spend the next year full-time working with you should be considered to be a $10,000 project. Call it a fellowship. It requires interviews. It's an honor to receive. Every student that's talented that works on our projects as freshmen and sophomores, we make up a position of higher responsibility during the junior and senior years, and we call them campus fellows. And we congratulate them. After 2 years of tax service, the best 30 students around the state we send an email to, congratulations. Basically, this is what it says. Congratulations, you've been selected to do even harder work next year. And they write back, thank you, thank you. Sign me up. We'll give you a stipend of $200 for 4 months of work. Great. Couldn't be a better business model. The nice thing, this is the last thing I want to say too, practically concrete level. The nice thing about campus to campus collaboration, and I hear about this a lot, where do you get funding? How do you make this thing churn? It's difficult if it all is being run through one university. I know you all probably have restrictions the way there are at Alabama, and we have to check with our advancement office, and then there's fees that the university wants, and we have this freestanding nonprofit. We also have the ability in our Center for Ethics to do this. It's sort of like a waiver from the president to go about small grant getting on our own as if we're our own little initiative. The great thing about service learning, as fascinated as everyone in this room is with the impact it has on the development of character and citizenship in young Americans, almost none of our grants care at all about that. They care about cost-effective vision screenings for 3-year-olds in poor communities. And service learning delivers to them an unparalleled business model. And there's nothing wrong with playing up that side. Most of the corporations in Alabama, they know about the college student side, but that's not why they're funding it. They're funding it because they know there's not a state in the country that gets to more poor 2-year-olds with high-tech vision care than we do. And to become a consortium that can tap into that value more and more, a replenishing workforce, to then receive corporate partnerships and grants from corporations that literally the effectiveness of your work, the cost effectiveness, can't be beat. And it allows us to keep churning and focusing on what we care most about, which is the experience that this gives to young Americans, young Alabamians in this case. I think I just want to leave it there, and I think we may have a couple minutes for discussion.
That's right. We have about 10 minutes for questions, comments. Anybody like to react to some of the very thoughtful and inspiring comments from Mr. Black? Introduce yourself.
Yes. I'm Tina Granger from Nichols State University. Did your 501c3 status require a secondary nonprofit to be affiliated with you?
Yes, and I came at this in a strange way. I came at academics sort of second to service learning. I started this nonprofit called Impact Alabama as a lawyer. I had worked for the governor for a while. I went back to practicing law part-time and just had my afternoons free. I wake up really early. I was just billing enough before lunch to make an okay living. And I just started teaching for the fun of it in the honors program at the university. And I just sort of had this idea that I think this is fundamentally really important work, enough to want to leave the practice of law and to think really big. How much more substantive and meaty can you make service learning projects? And as you all know, the meatier you make it, the more appealing it is to really talented students. And so it started with a separate 501c3. 2 years later, I got a call from the president of the University of Alabama that just asked me to come give him advice on how to enrich their service learning. I had no interest in taking that job. I said, I can't. I'm already working with 7 other campuses. And he said, which I think is appropriate for the president of the flagship university of the state, bring it here. Any work you're doing for me, if you can do it for other campuses, I want you to do that. We'll house your nonprofit. You can spend time working on it. We'll do whatever we can to support it, but I want you to bring that story here and grow it here as well.
I'd like to hear from some of our students that are here and solicit their reaction to what they've heard today. Yes, sir. And you are?
Tim Getty, Northwestern State University. I'm just curious, and I was thinking as you were speaking, you were talking about how everything's becoming suburbanized and how we're separating into these little parts. I was wondering your take on how you feel the internet's affected that when I can join Facebook and join the group of people around the world who like to flip their pillow over so they can get to the colder side. And how maybe it's not just, at least in my mind, location-wise that we're separating ourselves into these suburbs, but we don't even talk to the people we're living next to in the suburbs so much as we talk to people, on the, opposite coast of us who, just happen to like to flip their pillow over or something.
I think that's a great point, and I think this is the continuing sort of debate and cultural story of the internet, which is to say, at its advent, a lot of people thought, well, here you go. This will connect the world with the world. Every human being now can be personally and viscerally connected to the stories of people online. And unfortunately, as you know, most of people around the world do exactly what you said, which is find themselves on the internet and interact with themselves over and over again to a very incredible level of specificity. People can find divorced mothers with 3 sons, one of whom has a drug problem, interested in growing crops. And you can start a little support group. And people have used the internet to almost isolate themselves even more. Now, it still holds itself out as the promise for the great connector. And it can be used, I feel a little bit about technology and education the way I do I'm supportive of charter schools, but vouchers. I mean, the big worry with vouchers, whether you're for or against it, the big worry is you kind of remove the energy from the population to reform and improve schools. You pull the loud ones out and send them to kids, and then you just have this kind of quiet mass that doesn't get better educated. And I worry that technology and education, it can't be, you can't just have education at a high level through technology. You're in a rural area, I know what we'll do. We'll beam in a chemistry professor from, yeah, I mean, that's better than nothing, but that can't be the solution. The isolation is too great.